Hello. Welcome to Visionaryx, our podcast where you can have real and simple conversations with us about various tools and technologies. I'm Kafka, and
I'm RabbitMQ. In this podcast, we dive into exciting discussions about simple and deep technical topics in the world of DevOps and cloud. You can find the full transcript of this episode on our website, visionaryx.tech, to follow along with us. Stay tuned and enjoy the adventures in the world of technology.
hello, Rabbit. Did you hear? Netflix will say how it manages my many clusters at Kafka Summit. Billions of messages each day. That's a lot for a small rabbit like you, yes?
That's nice. At RabbitMQ Summit, they will talk about me too. One big topic is managing quorum queues at scale. This shows how I made durability and scalability much better with quorum queues. It may not be as big as Netflix, but it's good for most businesses.
No way, dude.
Kafka, do your data smell when you keep them? I give messages fast and then go to the next one. This way, all stays fresh.
Smell? No. I keep my data like wine. They get more value when they stay longer. My consumers can come back and read them again when they want.
Really? But what do you do with all this old data? I like to be lightweight.
Look, sometimes you need to go back. Maybe a new consumer comes. Or you want to do new analysis. I make this possible.
Okay, maybe it's good for some things. But I have low latency. I give messages very fast and done.
We each have our place. I am for big data streams. You are for fast messaging. The world needs us both.
You are right. Kafka, I have a question. At your next month's meeting, they will talk about sentiment analysis with Apache Flink. How does this link to you?
Oh, good you asked, Rabbit. Look, this is a very good example of me working with Flink for real-time data processing. I collect raw data and Flink analyzes it.
Well, what is good about this? I can collect data too.
Yes, but I can get very big amounts of data with no lag. For example, think we collect millions of tweets right now.
That's nice. But do you not think you do this work alone? Why do you need Flink?
Well, I am good at storing and sending data. Flink is a strong engine for stream processing. Together we can do sentiment analysis in real time.
I see. So you say your functionality alone is not enough for this work?
That's right. Flink and I work well together. I collect and store data, Flink processes it.
Interesting. With things like quorum queues and AMQP protocol, I try to be more flexible. Maybe I can do some of these things myself.
We each have our own strengths. The big thing is we can meet the many needs of users.
Kafka, it's true we each have our own strengths. I have a question. How do you work with the idea of a tunnel? I mean, how do data go from one end to the other?
Well, my tunnel is more like a river. Data flows and consumers can take data where they want. They can even go back. How about you?
That's nice. My tunnel is more like a complex pipe system. I take messages from start to end, with complex routing. By the way, what do you do to make sure of delivery?
I use an acknowledgement system. Producers can wait for an OK from one, some, or all replicas. This gives us good flexibility. How about you?
I use ACK2, but with a difference. Consumers must explicitly say OK to messages. If they don't, the message goes back in the queue. This is very good to make sure of processing.
Oh, that's nice. How about scalability? I scale easily with partitioning.
I have my own way too. With clustering and federation, I can scale well. But our approach is different.
Yes, our approaches are different. I use a log-based system that I think works better for high-throughput scenarios. By the way, how about your data retention policy? I can keep data based on time or size.
Usually, when a message is consumed, I delete it. But tell me, how do you deal with the problem of messages piling up in one specific partition?
Oh, that's a good question. I try to spread messages evenly between partitions. Sometimes, admins need to move partitions by hand. How do you split work between your queues?
I use something called Exchange. Exchanges can spread messages between many queues. This helps us manage work better. By the way, what do you think about giving messages exactly one time?
Oh, that's a hard topic. I try to do this with transactions and producers that don't repeat. But this affects speed. How do you fix this problem?
Well, I take this problem seriously too. I use something called Publisher Confirms. When a message is stored right, I send an OK to the publisher. Also, with consumer acknowledgements, I make sure each message is processed only once. If there's a problem, the message goes back to the queue. This way, like yours, makes a trade-off between being exact and working fast. But for most use cases, this way is reliable enough.
It's nice that we both think this is important. Are you near real-time or real-time? Well, I am usually used for near real-time because if they use me pull-based and because I'm used for high data volume and high throughput, latency in milliseconds is normal. What about you?
I can be used for both near real-time and real-time. With my push-based model, I can bring latency down even to microseconds. But this depends on configurations.
Microseconds? Really? How do you do that?
Well, for example, with TCP no delay, I can reduce delay in sending small packets.
That's interesting. What else?
Using transient mode for messages instead of persistent also helps a lot.
Oh, but doesn't this affect durability?
Yes, it's a trade-off. But for some use cases, it's worth it. By the way, making the operating system's scheduler better is very important too.
Yes, I count on that too. What other ways do you have?
Putting nodes close to each other physically has a big effect too.
Isn't this a bit like the availability zone idea in AWS?
Yes, in a way. But on a smaller scale. Making client settings better, like connection pool, is very important too.
True, that can have a big effect. What else?
The last thing I can think of is making the garbage collector better. This can stop unwanted pauses.
Well, it looks like you have interesting solutions too. But I think for different use cases, each of us can be the best choice.
By the way, Kafka, how do you know about the availability zone idea in AWS? I learned about these things when Amazon MQ, a service based on me, was being made.
That's interesting. I had a similar experience. AWS has a service called Amazon MSK that they made based on me. I learned about Availability Zone when they were making it and I was in AWS. By the way, how is this Amazon MQ? What are its good and bad points compared to your self-hosted version?
Well, Kafka, think of Amazon MQ like a rented suit, while my self-hosted version is a suit made just for you. Amazon MQ is quick and easy to get ready, AWS takes care of it, and it fits with other AWS clothes, services. But you can't change it much.
That's interesting. By the way, how are your data during message passing? Are they in chunks? Or do they all have a fixed size? Or maybe they change? I use a segmentation system that gives me good flexibility.
Good you asked. I use a flexible system. Messages can be any size, from a few bytes to many megabytes. For very big messages, I have a special way that uses AMQP 1.0 to split the message into parts and put them back together later. But usually, I try to keep messages as they are. How about you?
That's interesting. I use a partitioning system that splits messages into equal parts. This helps me manage lots of data and do parallel processing easier. But sometimes this can make things complex, especially when we need to keep messages in order.
Oh, so we each have a different way. I think my way might be better for times when we need to keep messages whole, while your way is probably better for big data and parallel processing. Is that right?
Exactly. Each of these ways has its own good and bad points. By the way, how do you deal with message ordering? This is one of my main challenges, especially when we work with multiple partitions.
Okay, let's talk about this later. Okay.
Thank you for listening to Visionaryx. You can find more technical and practical discussions on our website visionaryx.tech.
Next time, we'll be talking about Prometheus.
Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.